Many years ago, I lived in an old farmhouse. It was pretty big, and I was newly married. We would have friends stay periodically as they needed to. We had many things happen. The one bedroom always had flies in the window. I would spray, vacuum, and scrub the windows. The next day, the room was always full of flies. My best friend and her husband needed a place to stay for a while, and I let them choose the room they wanted. They chose the room of flies. This one night she was sleeping and felt someone pushing her to roll over. She thought her husband had gotten up in the middle of the night and was coming back to bed. When she rolled over, she fell against her husband. She looked to see who pushed her, and although no one was there, she felt the pressure of someone lying against her. She tried to wake her husband, but he would not wake up. She was so scared. She stayed awake the rest of the night until morning, and was too afraid to look and see what was next to her. Finally, when daylight hit, she felt the pressure leave and noticed the indentation of a body left behind on the bed. They never slept in that room again. We also had dogs that would not go upstairs or downstairs. I was doing dishes in the kitchen and the upstairs stairwell was behind me. All of a sudden, my dog perked up and his hair stood on its back. He started to growl as if he was looking towards the doorway and suddenly bolted for the living room. He would not come into the kitchen after that unless I was with him. My dogs would also stand at the doorway to the basement and would have their hair raised on their backs. I was always scared to go down there. I would get a really bad feeling where I would run down and back up. I would try and get one of my dogs to go with me, even in daylight, and they would not go further than the doorway. We would also hear someone walking through the home, but nobody would be there. The one spirit would be talking, and we would look for the voice and couldn't even find it. Sometimes it would call out our names, and we would think it was each other and answer, and find out it wasn't anyone calling. We slept in a downstairs bedroom, and I would have a sense of a man standing at the foot of our bed, watching us as we go to sleep. Our dogs even went to sleep with us, and wouldn't even sleep at the foot of the bed. After many strange activities, our neighbor told us that an elderly man had lived alone in the house for a long time. His mail had been piling up in his mailbox, so the mailman contacted the police to have them check on the old guy. He was found dead on the kitchen floor, and had been for quite a while. The funny thing is, the kitchen was never spooky feeling. My name is Amy, and I want to share something that happened to my family about 9 years ago. I have some free time on my hands, so I thought I might as well. As I said, about 9 years ago, my husband and I and our 4 children, ages 12, 11, 9, and 5, moved into the small 4-bedroom home. From the day we moved in, we knew that there was something about this home. It wasn't really a bad feeling, but something different. The feeling was almost welcome, like we were meant to be there. We were happy to be there. It was a comfortable house for people who were used to living in apartments. We had bedrooms, a living room, bathroom, and a kitchen on the first floor, and a bedroom with a bathroom, and a small porch, plus a larger room with a smaller room off to the left, on the second floor. At one time, the house had 2 apartments. The upstairs had 1 bedroom with a bathroom, a living room, and a small kitchen off to the left. The first floor had 2 bedrooms and a bathroom, living room, and kitchen with access to a basement. At the time we found this house, It seemed like almost a godsend, since we were being evicted because we had acquired a dog. And this house had a nice-sized yard, and the landlord didn't mind pets. Well, soon after we moved in, strange things started to happen. Well, since I was a stay-at-home mom most of the time due to being the parent of an ADHD child, I was the one to experience most of the phenomena. You see, while my husband was at work and the kids at school, I would hear light footsteps downstairs. But for anyone who has lived in apartments, your first thought is it's the neighbors, until you come to the realization that you are now living in a home, and there is no way you're going to hear the neighbor. It's a single-family home, for crying out loud. But I put it out of my mind, telling myself that I was so used to hearing the patter of small feet that I could still hear it when no one is at home. We had minor things happen, like the footsteps when there was only one person home, things disappearing and turning up somewhere you knew it shouldn't be, sightings by a friend who had never been to our house, and finally, the sound of a small die-cast toy car falling down the stairs and hitting the back door. For anyone who has small boys, you know what a Hot Wheel sounds like when it is hit by a surface because you've heard it before. Anyway, this is what my husband and I heard on a nightly basis. One day, about 8 months of living there, a friend of my husband brought over a new girlfriend for us to meet. As far as we were concerned, nothing out of the ordinary happened that day until Jimmy, my husband's friend, brought by his girlfriend China. At this point, I should explain a few things. The bedroom with the bathroom belonged to my husband and I. The large room that used to be a living room becomes our computer room, and the little room off to the left became our daughter's room. Secondly, we did not allow our kids to have friends over due to things disappearing whenever certain friends come over. Well, the next time the girlfriend came over, she asked us how many kids we had, and I told her 3 boys and 1 girl. Then she asked us who the little boy downstairs had been, and I asked her what little boy. She said the last time she had visited us, there had been a little boy in diapers playing Nintendo 64 with my kids, and I told her politely there was no other child but mine in the home. She insisted that I saw another little boy in diapers today, and the last time I came playing Nintendo 64 with your kids. I told her she was mistaken, as my kids were not allowed to have friends over. Well, of course, she dropped it after that. But to this day, she still swears she sees a little boy in diapers in our house. At other times when I was alone at home, I would hear someone knocking on my bedroom door, and I would automatically ask what, and realize there was no one home but me when I received no answer. This happened to me a lot. At times I would hear someone playing in the boys' rooms downstairs. When the kids were at school, about 1 year after we moved in, my oldest and I took newspaper routes. About 4 months after we started our paper routes, I was rolling newspapers before delivering them when the front page caught my eye. The picture on the front page looked like my house, but there were no toddler toys on the lawn, and I had no toddlers at the time. So I read it and found out that exactly 1 year before we moved in, a little boy of about 1 year of age had died in the home. It seems that Miles had been living there with his foster mother, her father, and her children. One day the foster mother went out and left her father to watch little Miles. While she was out, her father, in a fit of rage, hit Miles while the little boy was at the top step on the 2nd floor, which, by the way, happened to be near my bedroom door. The little boy lost his balance upon being struck and fell down the stairs and broke his neck. As I read this, little things began to fall into place, and I realized that maybe Miles was still there. The last thing to happen there was about 3 months before we moved out. It was late, and my husband and I were still talking and watching TV when again we heard the little car falling down the steps and hit the back door. I knew my kids were sleeping because that was the only sound in an otherwise silent home. So I jokingly said, "All right, Miles, it is late, and it's bedtime for little kids and even little ghosts." What I heard next chilled me to the bone and freaked me out so bad I was almost in tears. As soon as I said that, I heard a little tiny giggle, which my husband also heard, and I promptly said, "Do whatever you want." As I said before, up to this point, we thought we were imagining everything that was happening there and never wanted to believe that we had a ghostly tenant. The strange thing is, we were never scared while we lived there. The feeling there was we were home, and this is where we were meant to live. Unfortunately, due to circumstances beyond our control, we had to move. Otherwise, we would still be living there. It was the most comfortable place I'd ever lived in, and I loved it there. I have other stories that happened to family members, and also myself. Maybe I will share more of this. For now, I hope you enjoy this story, and maybe can tell me if it was really a haunting. My name is Randy, and I've been reading many of the true ghost stories on your website, and I must say, a lot of this stuff is genuine, and it sends chills down my spine. I know from experience. Let's go way back to the 1970s, to the city of Toronto. My mom and my dad were in a band. My mom left my stepdad for a woman in the band, and we, meaning me and my younger brother, my mom and her lover, moved into a rooming house. 2 rooms on the 2nd floor, with a kitchen and a bathroom, on a street called Bartmount, near Pepe and Queen. The first day we moved there, maggots came crawling out from underneath the baseboard of one of the walls in my room. My mom and her girlfriend, shrieking and squishing bugs. Anyway, my mom would leave me and my brother there alone at night, so she could play music with the band. Besides, the lady who lived on the 1st floor had 3 boys my age, and she would come up periodically during the night, or right away, if we called out. Well, it started that night out. When everyone was gone and my brother was asleep, I would hear the voice of a child quietly muttering or praying, and I wasn't the least bit frightened, at first. Now please keep in mind, this was a long time ago, and I don't remember anything in particular it said to me. It was like an imaginary friend, I assumed. Then one night, I was in a mood or something, and for some reason, I was being cruel to my younger brother, as children sometimes are, and he went to sleep crying. Now, this spirit or entity took on a much more terrifying persona. It hated me, and nighttime was now a horrifying experience. There were a few things that it did almost nightly, like yanking the covers off, or making it seem as though there was a huge rat underneath the covers, scream profanities constantly, rattle the dishes that were left to dry on the counter. I would beg my mom to stay home and scream for that poor woman who lived down the stairs, or I would try to keep my brother awake, but he could sleep through anything. The most terrifying thing that ever happened was this ball of light red, but then it changed as it traveled up and down the wall, spitting electricity. It got so bad that I couldn't even sleep, and kids at school were accusing me of wearing makeup, eyeshadow. I became accident prone and finally got poked in the eye by some girl at school, and my mother sent me to stay at my grandmother's for a month. By the time I recovered, we moved away a few days after I returned. For years, I had never had that happen to me since. It seemed like for a while, and even I forget it happened, but not anymore. There are a couple things I learned from this experience. First thing was that spirit was a child, and secondly, that spirits do exist, and lastly, I'm no psychic or detective or anything, but I bet there's a body buried behind the wall in that room. I've experienced hauntings since I was about 5 or 6 years old. The very first time was when my family moved into the house my uncle owned. We lived downstairs, and they lived upstairs. It was a pretty old house. Well, after a few weeks of living there one summer, my dad went to the grocery store. Though it's strange, my parents would leave me alone at the home because I hated leaving the home. The grocery store was on the corner anyway. That day I was alone, and I heard someone walking up the stairs, thinking it was my cousin or aunts. I went upstairs, where they always left the door open for us. I walked in, and no one was in the house. I checked the living and bathroom, the kitchen. No one was there, but I kept hearing someone behind me. Then out of nowhere, this doll appeared by the door. It wasn't there when I walked in. I wasn't very scared, but just a little shook up. I went downstairs and stayed in my living room, looking out my window for my dad to come home. Well, we ended up moving 3 years later, when I was 8. This time we moved into a Victorian-style home. Cherry wood and old heaters. Very romantic, with a small chandelier. I fell in love with the home. I've always loved old homes. Months after moving in, I would hear someone in the bathroom rummaging or washing their hands. I would walk in there, and no one would be there. Everything would stop. Later, I would be sometimes sitting in the kitchen, eating cereal, and I saw a tall man with another oddly tall woman, not dressed in Victorian wear, but still old-fashioned, maybe 1930s or 40s. I saw them standing down the hall in there, looking straight at me. I looked at them for a little bit, and then they were gone. They were misty, and I remember seeing the sun shining through them. It was very calm. Other times that I stayed home alone in this new home, I would hear someone walking up the stairs, and then it would stop if I would call out. One day they didn't stop. I was watching TV. It then turned off, and I couldn't even figure out why. And then I sat on the couch playing with a little music recorder I talked into. I heard my name being called from the stairs. It didn't sound like my dad, but in my head, I was forcing myself to think it was, and I called out Daddy. No one answered. I just kept hearing my name, and someone walking closer up the stairs. I heard the footsteps, and my name. I became really frightened, and I heard a soft chuckle of a man. Well, after that, I had many more experiences now that I'm 18, and they have just stopped. I kind of miss them, and sometimes want to contact them again. That is the earliest of my experience. Just for the record, I'm not alone. I am normal, have a normal job, and I'm not crazy at all. I was staying at my friend's house. We all planned to sleep in the living room. Laura, Dave, and myself. I knew Dave was leaving early in the morning for work at 6 a.m. I woke to go to the loo in the night, and found Laura had gone to bed in her own room upstairs. So it was just me and Dave sleeping in the living room. It was getting light when I found myself awake, even though I felt tired. I awoke suddenly but peacefully, and I was very much awake. I didn't dream this. I was wondering why I was awake. In my head, not out loud. When I heard breathing, 2 sets of deep in and out heavy breaths, I instantly thought, oh, it's okay, it's Dave breathing. The next thing I thought was, hang on, Dave's not even here. He had left for work, and straight after that thought came, Laura said her house was haunted. Before I could even ponder that, I heard a voice. An older man's voice right in my ear, so close, I could feel him near me whispering. He said, I'll wrap you in my grave. He sounded full of malice, and just really hateful. I was terrified, and was stuck in that position. I was so afraid. After about 15 minutes, I held my hands over my ears, and screamed till Laura came down. But where I had my eyes closed, when she tried to get me to realize she was there, I thought it was the ghost, and then I screamed even more. She says I was hysterical for a while, until she calmed me down. It was not a dream. Laura then told me her sister used to wake in the middle of the night because she couldn't breathe and felt like someone was sitting on her chest. Laura's mom told me that Laura, when she was little, used to ask who the people in her house was when there was no one there but herself and her mom. I had trouble sleeping for months after, and still can't sleep on that side or with the lights off alone. When he said the word rap, I had a visual image of cherries, which I thought was strange. It was like saying something in a German word you recognize when you only speak English. What he said doesn't make much sense. But when I told my mom, she thought he might have said the R-A-P-E word and not rap. It sounded like rap though. Well, that's it. I really hope you didn't mind the story. Hey everybody, welcome to the end of the video. This is the best part of the video because you get to comment, subscribe, and share. Remember back in the days, you would comment on a video and you'd be like, oh, it's a video, and you'd comment and you'd like and share. We'll continue that. That's the whole point of growing the channel. We just hit 32,000 subscribers, and I couldn't be even more proud of you guys for doing that. You guys did it, not me. And I want to sound like I did it, but I just upload the videos. Anyway, guys, love you so much. Let me know in the comment section below which video that you like the most out of every video that I've ever uploaded in my life. No, I'm just kidding, guys. But let me know in the comment section which story you like the most. Love you, and I'll see you in the next video.